They mocked me, laughed at the machine I'd built in my garage, said it was dangerous, ugly unauthorized, said I was breaking HOA rules while our streets froze into death traps. I warned them. I begged them to prepare for the storm to see what was coming, but all they did was fine me instead. And then the blizzard hit the roads, vanished, a child started seizing, and the ambulance couldn't even get to us. So yeah, I broke their rules. I rolled my machine right out into the storm, fired it up beneath all that frozen authority, and melted a path straight through their lies. And when the cameras showed up, Karen screamed bloody murder because for the first time the whole world saw the truth. The HOA didn't save this neighborhood, I did. And God help me, I wasn't finished yet. You want to know how it started with a silence. Only heavy snow brings a hush so complete you half expect the world itself to lean in and listen. My breath clouded the frosted glass of my workshop as I tightened the last bolt on that steel tank. Months of work behind me, skinned knuckles, midnight welding sessions, and enough burnt gas station coffee to etch my insides. There it stood under the bare bulb, a portable snow melter, not a plow or a blower, but something better. Heated brine pumping through radiant coils, melting ice on contact without ripping up the asphalt or cracking concrete. Propane-powered riding on big, heavy-duty wheels and ready to clear a 15-foot path in less than a minute. Why'd I build it? Because Birch Hollow Lane never got plowed on time. And the last time it didn't, my wife paid for it. 3 years ago, a blizzard out of nowhere. Roads left untreated, ambulance stuck 2 blocks away, its lights spinning uselessly against a wall of ice. Paramedics made it to our door on foot, but Allison was already gone. She was 42. Her laugh used to fill every room. After that night, the house just felt too big, too quiet. I told myself this machine was practical, a way to keep the street open, but deep down it was penance, an impossible fix for something that could never be fixed. First real test came on a Tuesday just after Christmas. I rolled it out at 5:42 a.m. Sky still black, air sharp enough to cut right through you. 8 fresh inches overnight. The neighborhood buried under a quilt of white. Primed the pump, turned the propane valve, pressed the igniter. The burner caught with a low, hungry growl. Steam billowed up as hot brine hit the ice. Snow retreated in sizzling waves. Dark asphalt showing through like a wound, healing in reverse. I started with my driveway, then the sidewalk, and once I had momentum, well, by the time the sun rose, I'd carved a wide, steaming channel straight down the center of our block. You could smell the sharp tang of salt and heat in the air. A few curtains twitched, someone gave a cautious wave. Kids waiting for the school bus stared with their mouths open, breath hanging in little clouds. For the first time since Allison's funeral, I felt something like purpose. And then out came Karen Delaney. Crimson coat, lipstick to match boots crunching on untouched snow. Clipboard in one hand, phone in the other. She parked herself 10 feet away and announced loud enough for the whole cul-de-sac, "You cannot operate industrial-grade machinery on HOA property." I didn't look up right away, just kept adjusting the pressure valve, wiping my hands. "It's not industrial," I said. "It's homemade and it's on my driveway." Her laugh was sharp, humorless. "That makes it worse. Unregulated, unapproved, constructed by an unlicensed resident. There's a process, Jonathan. Forms, standards." I finally looked her in the eye. "Is there a form for keeping the road open so ambulances can get through?" She held up her phone like a threat. "Already filed a complaint. Article 6, Section 3, mechanical alterations and unauthorized installations. You'll get formal notice within 48 hours. She didn't even really look at the machine, just glared at the rising steam, then spun and marched back inside. From the porch, her husband Bill filmed the whole thing. That was their rhythm, Karen commanded out front. Bill collected evidence from the shadows. Sure enough, the next morning there it was, an orange envelope taped to my door. $150 fine for operating an unapproved snow management device, $50 more each day. By week's end, nearly $500 for making the streets safer than it had been in years. I stood in the garage, paper in hand, Allison's photo looking down at me from the shelf. My son Liam, 12 years old, and in mismatched socks, came in and asked if we were in trouble. I told him no, but inside, something shifted. I wasn't taking the machine apart. I was going to use it. Every morning before sunrise, I pulled on my boots, wheeled the melter out into the cold. Burner roaring heat rolling down the street, widening the channel. I pushed past my property line, past the elderly couple at number 14, past the family with toddlers waving from their window. The cleared path grew longer, safer. And every day, Karen's retaliation grew sharper. New fines, yellow stickers, accusations of everything from visual blight to unauthorized alteration of community roadways. One afternoon, a passive-aggressive note: "Please consider the aesthetic impact of your equipment on our shared curb appeal." Another morning, someone piled a waist-high drift of dirty snow across my walkway. The tire tracks matched Karen's Range Rover perfectly. I cleared it anyway. Liam saw all of it from the window. One night he asked, "Why does Mrs. Delaney hate the machine? It's helping everybody." I just ruffled his hair. "Some people are more afraid of change than of being stuck," I told him, but the anger inside me built slow and steady like snow packing into ice. I kept thinking about that ambulance that never made it to Allison, about the dispatcher's voice. "We're trying, sir." The trucks can't get traction, about how rules and protocols stood between my wife and the help she needed. So I fought back the only way I knew, sent a formal request to the board, attached photos, weather forecasts, even copied the local fire chief, old army buddy who owed me one. Offered to demo the melter sign, whatever waiver they wanted. The reply: a single-page denial, no names, just the board. Use of unapproved equipment denied. Continued use equals escalated fines, possible civil enforcement. I pinned that letter on the garage corkboard right next to Allison's photo and the newspaper clipping about her death: "Local woman dies waiting for ambulance delayed by snow." That night I sat at the kitchen table staring at the stack of violation notices until the words blurred. Made my decision. The machine stayed. The next week brought colder air, shorter days. My routine didn't change. Alarm coffee melter into the dark. Neighbors left thank you muffins, a thermos of cocoa, a note from Mrs. Alvarez. "Thank you for keeping us safe." Karen noticed. She marched out again, this time with 2 board members, measuring tape in hand, declaring, "You are now altering community property without authorization. We'll involve the county sheriff if needed." I shut off the burner. "Go ahead. Ask how long it'd take their plow to reach us in an emergency." "This isn't about emergencies," she said. "It's about rules. If everyone ignored the covenants, we'd have anarchy." I stepped closer. 3 years ago, we had rules and my wife died because of them." For a second, her face faltered, uncertainty, guilt, then it was gone. That evening, a special HOA hearing was announced. I showed up early, military habit. Room half full, neighbors in coats, folding chairs, Karen dead center at the table. She opened with the kind of voice that could freeze a lake, recited every bylaw, and waved glossy photos of my machine like crime scene evidence. "This machine represents a clear and present danger," she said. Finally, Steve, the quiet board guy, let me respond. I stood, folder in hand. "I didn't build that machine to break rules," I began. "I built it because 3 years ago an ambulance couldn't reach my house in time to save my wife." Murmurs moved through the room. Karen interrupted. "You failed to follow proper protocol." "There's no protocol for this," I said. "No winter response plan. Just fines for anyone who tries to help." I held up the weather forecast. "You can keep fining me, but you can't fine the weather." The vote was swift. 4-1 violation upheld. Immediate cessation. "You have 48 hours to remove the device," Karen announced. I gathered my things, pulse hammering in my ears. She added, "If anything happens because of that machine, liability falls on you." Right then I saw it. This was never about safety. It was about power and reminding everyone who held it. That night I stared down at the street, 48 hours until the next storm, which forecast said would hit in 72. I knew which would arrive first. 2 days later, the storm hit hard, soft, at first, then thick and relentless. By noon, my channel was gone, buried. I kept the melter tucked away, just as ordered. Another cease and desist order arrived this time, with red tape and legal threats. That night, my son curled up under Allison's old quilt, asked Dad if it gets bad again. "Are we going to be okay?" I pulled him close. "We'll figure it out, buddy. We always do." Around midnight, a text from Greg down the street driveway is a sheet of ice. "Dad's stuck inside, bad hip. Any chance the beast can come out?" Another buzz. Karen's crowing about restoring order. People are pissed. I opened the HOA app for the first time in weeks. There it was. A photo of the pristine, untouched snow captioned, "Thanks to vigilant enforcement. Birch Hollow maintains a clean winter response. Unauthorized devices remain prohibited. The comments were a war zone. Where's the plow we pay dues for? You shut down the one guy actually clearing roads. Karen replied, HOA policy is not a popularity contest. Standards keep us civilized. I stared out the window, watching snow pile higher, wind howling. By morning, silence. No plows, no traffic, just a thick, unbroken white pressing against the windows. Over 2 feet had fallen ice underneath. That's when I heard the siren far away, then closer. Out the door, fire truck stuck 2 blocks down, tires spinning on ice, firefighters shoveling by hand. My phone lit up, elderly female unresponsive, road access blocked by ice. Helen Myers, 81, lived alone, still baked banana bread for new neighbors. The fire truck wasn't moving, and Karen was probably still asleep in her warm bed. I wasn't going to stand by again. Not after Allison. I yanked the tarp off the melter, fired it up, and wheeled it down into the storm. Steam poured off the coils, carving a path. Neighbors watched from their windows. This time nobody called out to stop me. They just watched as I marched into the blizzard with fire at my heels. Greg joined me with a shovel, then Rosalind's son Malik, then his mother, then more. We moved as a small army, the melter leading the charge. The path met the truck's bumper with a hiss. Firefighters waved us on. The tires bit, then gripped, and the engine crawled forward, following the trail I'd made. They reached Helen's house at 10:07. Paramedics carried her out, oxygen mask on, still breathing. A firefighter shook my hand, voice rough. We wouldn't have made it without that path. The ambulance took the same melted channel out, neighbors watching from porches, and then applause, slow at first, then a wave down the block. By late afternoon, Karen fired back a post on the HOA app. Shaky video from her window, captions full of venom, unauthorized operation during emergency conditions. Enforcement action required. No mention of Helen. But this time I was ready. I posted my own video footage from the door camera showing the fire truck, stuck neighbors helping paramedics, wheeling Helen to safety. I didn't write a word. The thread exploded. He literally saved her life. Where were you, Karen? This is the risk you're worried about. Karen went silent, but the board called for another emergency hearing, possible injunction, police involvement. They wanted to make an example of me. But by now the neighborhood had changed. At the next meeting it was standing room only. People testified, Mrs. Alvarez, Greg, Roslyn. Story after story, emergencies, near misses, the melter making the difference. When Karen tried to bang the gavel, the lawyer whispered in her ear, but it was too late. County officials walked in, badges visible, boots dripping on the floor. We're opening a formal review, the lead investigator announced, obstruction of lawful emergency aid. The meeting ended without a vote. The power Karen held gone. Spring came late that year. Snow lingered, but when it finally melted, Birch Hollow woke up. Barbecues on driveways that used to be battlegrounds, potlucks at the clubhouse, real conversations instead of passive-aggressive notes. Roslyn was elected HOA president, first motion, retire the unauthorized equipment bylaws. Emergency kits and heated mats for steep sidewalks, transparency for every fine and decision. I upgraded the melter, called it Allison, on a little engraved plate. She would have loved what came next, neighbors working together, drills for winter emergencies, welcome baskets for new families. We look out for each other here. Karen's house sold fast. The new folks never mentioned bylaws. One night Liam asked, "Think it's really over?" I looked out at Greg helping new neighbors, Mrs. Alvarez pushing her grandson on the swing, Malik mowing her lawn without being asked. Laughter on the breeze. We got it back, I said. Not the same way, but real. That summer we had the first annual Neighbors' Day. Kids with water guns bounce house snow cone machine for practice Lego melter competitions. That night Liam and I cleaned up, looking around at what we'd built. Think there are other neighborhoods like we were, he asked. Probably more than we know, I said. Maybe they need to hear our story. So I wrote it down. Not for revenge, not for vindication, but for anyone staring down a stack of fines, wondering if doing the right thing is worth the fight. For anyone who believes community is something you build, not something you enforce. For the ones carrying fire inside, even when everything outside is ice. Winter will come again. It always does. But this time we'll be ready. Not because of the perfect machine, not because the rules finally changed, but because we remembered what matters most. We have each other. And that's the warmest thing of all. Now you tell me, when do rules stop protecting us and start endangering the very people they're meant to serve? Where's the line between order and compassion, between authority and real justice? Leave your story below if you've got one. Or tell me, what would you have done standing at that window, the snow piling up, knowing help might not get through? Because out here sometimes you're the only one who can light the way.